Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Paranormal Karen. It is Paranormal Potpourri is what we're going to call it.
We
Right.
are.
We are going to call it that.
Because we called it that on the first take.
Okay, right. This is the second take. And say hello. Sister Sue is here. Hi, Sue.
Hi, everyone.
And we taped this in 3 parts. So I have to tell you, at the end, we have 2 ghost stories that were phenomenal. One is from Denmark.
They were really good.
Denmark and Utah. Not always used in the same sentence. But the stories were great. So,
And they did have similarities.
and they did, and we didn't
so
know
weird.
that until after we're done reading them. We were like, "What?"
Yes.
And also, just so y'all know, coming up, first of all, thanks to everybody that came out in the show in Utah. I had a blast, and also. Okay, I don't have any. I'm going to be in Vegas next year. I'll leave my dates out later.
And Karen, who are you having next week?
Next week, you won't believe this.
Tell me, because it's going to be a shock.
I am having Diet,
Oh.
who is this woman that I stalked her on YouTube. I started watching all her things on YouTube. She is fabulous. She channels, and we were talking about reptilians and all kinds of things. And I saw she was in Utah, and I was like, I'm going to be there. Do you want to come to a show? And can I interview you for my podcast? And she came out, and now we're friends, and she is the loveliest person. And so she is on next week. And then I'm not sure when, but I'm doing another show that I want you guys to send me your it's going to be called Could You Fake Your Own Death? And I want you to send me your creepy Big Brother stories, video cameras, or if anybody has anything when they didn't know they were being watched and they were, or something like that. And I'm going to go through all the ways, like Alexa is now starting to, murders are, there was a murder that was solved because Alexa was recording the conversations and they didn't even know it. Yeah. And some things like that, which in some cases are good, but in a lot of cases it's like, hey, back off. I'm going to the bathroom here. I have this theory that we're all going to end up naked on the internet at some point because I have.
And your Alexa will say, Karen, do you need more condoms?
Do you need more condoms? Because I've driven across this country doing one-nighters and gigs, and I think I've probably gone to the bathroom in every gas station up and down the California coast. And some jerk must be in there with a camera at some point. So, But I feel like that's going to do away with shame. We'll all be naked and then there'll be no shame. But you and I did a great drive yesterday, and you turned me on to this show, Radiolab, which was great. And you had me listen to the story of the Tanzania laughter epidemic.
Very nicely remembered.
Yes. So I'm going to read this, and then we're going to talk about that, and then we have another one of these weird sort of epidemics, or would they dancing? One's dancing, one's laughter. So check this out, folks. Here, this is in Wikipedia, so it's true. But we've read about.
And please
5
support
articles.
Wikipedia. They're going to ask you.
Oh, well, Wikipedia
I do
wouldn't
support them.
Put me in.
Then don't support. No,
They said I wasn't relevant.
Well, you are relevant now. Hey,
not yet.
All the 5-star reviews, man. They'll be calling for you soon.
Yes, so leave me a 5-star review. No, 2 people tried to enter me, and they said, no, she's not relevant. And I was like, okay. All right, Wikipedia, you are not relevant, except for right now when I read this article. Now, it was Tanzania. It had a different name before Tanzania, but we're saying Tanzania because we can't say the name before it. And if you're in Tanzania and you know anything about this, send me an email. I would love to hear.
Oh, and I will say the last plug for Radiolab, if you want more information and interviews with some people that were involved in this, check it out. Okay, I'm done with that.
The Tanzania laughter epidemic of 1962 was an outbreak of mass hysteria or mass psychogenic illness, rumored to have occurred in or near the village of Kashisha.
I'm going to give it to you because the next ones that are coming up for me are awful.
Oh, the names? Yeah. Okay,
yes.
we'll scan through the names. On the western coast of Lake Victoria in modern nation of Tanzania, formerly known as Tanganyika, I don't know, on the border of Uganda. And please don't be offended, Uganda, that I didn't get that right. I usually don't get Alaska right, so.
Sorry, I spit all over you.
The laughter epidemic began January 30th, 1962 at a mission-run boarding school for girls. The laughter started with 3 girls and spread haphazardly throughout the school, affecting 95 of the 159 pupils aged 12 to 18. Symptoms lasted from a few hours to 16 days in those that were affected. The teaching staff were not affected, but reportedly that the students were unable to concentrate on their lessons. The school was forced to close down on March 18th, 1962. After the school was closed and the students were sent home, the epidemic spread to Natimsba. A village that was home to several of the girls. In April and May, 217 people had laughing attacks in the village, most of them being school children and young adults. The school was reopened on May 21st, only to be closed again at the end of June. In June, the laughing epidemic spread to another middle school and affected 48 girls. The school from which the epidemic sprang was sued for allowing the children and their parents to transmit to the surrounding areas. The schools itself and the village, comprising of thousands of people, were all affected to some degree. 6 to 18 months after it started, the phenomenon died off. The following symptoms were reported on an equally massive scale as the reports of the laughter itself: pain, fainting, flatulence. Like, Dad, oh my God. And if he were here, there would be hysterical laughing and it wouldn't stop either. Respiratory problems, rashes, attacks of crying, and random screaming. In total, 14 schools were shut down and 1,000 people were affected. Wow. Okay. Well, if you laugh that hard, flatulence could just be a problem. Okay. Charles Hempfleman, of Purdue University, has theorized that the episode was stress-induced. In 1962, Tanzania had just won its independence, he said, and students had reported feeling stressed because of higher expectations by teachers and parents. He says usually it occurs in people without a lot of power. So that would be the suppressed, at last resort for people of low status, it's an easy way for them to express that something is wrong. Sociologist Robert Bartholomew and psychiatrist Sam Wesley both put forward a culture-specific epidemic hysteria hypotheses, pointing out that the occurrence in the 1960s in Africa were prevalent in missionary schools, and Tanzania's society was ruled by strict elders, so the likelihood is hysteria and was manifested of a culture of dissonance between the traditional conservatism at home and the new ideas challenging those beliefs in the schools, which were termed conversion reactions. So when we listened to that article, they were saying how people that were inflicted with this, everyone went to see the witch doctor to see. That's like, they were literally like, we don't know what's going on, and it couldn't stop. But it's really interesting when you listen to this on Radiolab, because they did interview people that were really there, and it wasn't like, it isn't like when you go to talk to someone about Bigfoot and everybody's half of them are rolling their eyes and the other half are going, no, it really happened. It was like everybody talks about it like it.
And apparently it happened again later, like in the 80s maybe, or the 90s, they said also.
Yeah, and so I guess it's very interesting, but it was funny because it does happen when it's stressed. Because I remember when Aunt Doris, my dad's sister, died. She died young. What was she, like in her 60s?
She was.
And she didn't leave Dad's numbers, the emergency numbers. So her partner found me on the internet and called me to tell me Aunt Doris had died. And I called Dad, and Dad couldn't stop laughing when I told him.
Until he heard he wasn't getting any of her money.
I know. But then he kept going, I can't stop laughing. And so I started laughing. And then I asked someone, because I was like, I think that we're sociopaths. And someone said, no, that's a very common occurrence. In fact, there was a movie And Sally Fields was in the movie, and that was a thing. I don't remember what the movie was.
And wasn't there one Chuckles the Clown with Mary Tyler Moore, and she couldn't stop laughing at the funeral, right?
Right. So that's a very common thing, but it's very, I don't know.
It's a little disturbing when it happens. And then they had a bunch of theories, like that there were caterpillars that had just made an appearance the year before, and they had stepped on them, and
there was an infestation of caterpillars that they had never seen before, and they thought maybe people stepped on them, and there was a bacteria and stuff. But still, just a weird occurrence. Which then, so thank you for introducing me to that. And then we looked into the dancing mania.
Yes, and I apologize to everyone, not just the people that are from Germany or wherever I'm going to start, because I cannot pronounce these cities. All right.
So this is, I think,
from the Smithsonian.
This is from the Smithsonian. This is about the dancing epidemic. They call it epidemic or
mania.
Mania.
Strange case of dancing mania struck Germany 6 centuries ago today. So it's one of those look back articles. And the article came up on June 24th, 2016. So you people can do that math for yourselves. 642 years ago today, citizens in the German city of Aachen, I'd say, started to pour out of their houses and into the streets, where they began to writhe and whirl uncontrollably. This was the first major outbreak of dancing plague, or choreomania, and it would spread across Europe in the next several years. To this day, experts aren't sure what caused the frenzy, which could drive those who danced to exhaustion. The outbreak in Germany was called St. John's Dance, but it wasn't until the first appearance of the mania, or the last, according to the Black Death and Dancing Mania, originally published in 1888. In the book, Justice Friedrich Karl Hecker imaginatively describes the spectacle of St. John's Dance as follows. Okay, guys, picture this in your heads. As I'd say to my second graders, you can close your eyes. They formed circles hand in hand, and appearing to have lost all control over their senses, continued dancing regardless of the bystanders for hours together in wild delirium, until at length they fell to the ground in a state of exhaustion. They then complained of extreme oppression and groaned as if in the agonies of death, until they were swathed in cloths bound tightly around their waists, upon which they again recovered and remained free from complaint until the next attack. And we were trying to figure out what that was like. So it was almost like a big belt of cloth.
I guess so.
We're thinking?
They don't know this. This actually inspired the TV movie Fame.
I knew something was coming. I knew she had a setup there. The disease spread to,
you can skip the names.
Utrecht, in some other towns around there, Tongres, maybe, in the Netherlands and Belgium and up and down the Rhine River. And other times, other forms of the mania started to be called St. Vitus's dance. During the Middle Ages, the church held that the dancers had been possessed by the devil, or perhaps cursed by a saint.
Which is weird, because you lose your sainthood if you curse someone. That doesn't go with that.
No. It was called tarantism in Italy. It was, and you catch that, right? Tarantella or tarantula. It was believed the dancing was either brought on by the bite of a spider, or it was a way to work out the poisons the arachnid had injected. More modern interpretations have blamed a toxin produced by a fungus that grew on rye. Ergot, I think that's how you say that, ergot poisoning or ergotism, could bring on hallucinations, spasms, and delusions thanks to the psychoactive chemicals produced by the fungus. Here it comes, Claviceps purpurea. Who knows?
Whoever is correcting you on that does not need to listen to the podcast. if they're mad because you said that wrong, they can just move along.
Yes, do it. Go. But not all of the regions affected by the strange compulsion to dance have been home to people who consumed rye, points out Robert Bartholomew in an article for the July-August 2000 issue of Skeptical Inquirer. And I would like to see that magazine. Have you ever heard of that?
I have seen Skeptic magazine. Yes.
Would I like it?
Yeah, maybe.
Is it like the Enquirer?
No, I think there's a lot of. I didn't continue to read it, but I like I like my
Maybe I could
paranormal the way
start
it
a
is.
podcast about
You could.
skeptic.
And then you could come on after my podcast and just disregard everything I say.
I know. I'll be the disputing sister. Yeah. Furthermore, the outbreaks didn't always happen during the wet season when the fungus would have grown. St. Vitus's dance later came to mean Sydenham chorea, a disorder that, that's the thing I just saw on YouTube, people. You can look that up. A disorder that struck children and did cause involuntary tremors in the arms, legs, and face. However, those twitches were not the kind of dancing described in the outbreak of dancing mania. Another notable epidemic broke out in the city of Strasbourg in 1518. It started in July when a woman called Frau Trophia began to dance. Within a month, 400 people joined in the madness. This plague, in particular, was probably worsened by apparently well-meaning officials who thought that the victims just needed to dance it out and shake it off. I wonder if they set up like bands and stuff.
I know, because I keep thinking this is like a musical when everyone's dancing down the street, but it doesn't sound quite as organized. That would be a great virus.
It is not a flash mob, is it?
Not a flash mob.
All right, let's see. They set aside guild halls for the dancers, hired professional pipe and drum players and dancers to keep people inspired. Oh no, that's not good. You
like
have the flu?
Stop.
Here. Go to the nursing home and cough a lot. Yeah. Here's a little romaine for you.
They put in a band in so they wouldn't be embarrassed.
I'm laughing so hard I could cry.
No, we're having laughing mania. That was the wrong one.
All right, guys. Let's see. Okay. Madness is ultimately what some experts think caused such a bizarre phenomenon. Waller explains in 1518 that the people from Strasbourg were struggling to deal with famine. Here we go, just like the other group.
Stress, yeah.
Yeah. This is like all stress, this whole thing. Wait till you hear the stories coming up, too, people.
It's a very stressful podcast. Yes. Oh, it is, I know.
Let's see. So they were struggling to deal with famine, disease, and the belief that supernatural forces could force them to dance. In 1374, the region near the Rhine was suffering from the aftermath of another true plague, the Black Death. Waller argues that the dancers were under extreme psychological distress and were able to enter a trance state.
No, can't stop laughing.
Something that would need to dance, or something they would need to dance for such a long period of time. He blames the dancing mania on a kind of mass hysteria. You know what?
That's good.
We do have a little more. Okay. Here's the end. Bartholomew disagrees. He points out that the records from the time claim these dancers were often from other regions. They were religious pilgrims, he posits. He writes, the behavior of these dancers was described as strange because while exhibiting actions that were part of the Christian tradition and paying homage to Jesus, Mary, and various saints at chapels and shrines and the other elements were foreign. Radulfus de Rivo's Chronicle de Cantate, it's Latin, states, in their songs they uttered the names of devils never heard before, this strange sect. And here's another author, Petros de Herrenthal.
Wait. So
these are all authors. These are all quotes from people.
Okay, but so one guy said that the people were saying names of demons?
In their songs, they uttered names of devils never heard before. And then ellipses, so that's not the end. And then the end of the quote is, this strange sect.
Okay, so it was just a certain people in it, that there was a sect of people in the dancing that were...
And then another person wrote, there came to Aachen a curious sect. So there were other people coming, different people coming in. And then there was another place that described the participants as a sect of dancers.
Wow.
Okay, and then the end. Once the first dancers started their strange ritual, other people perhaps joined in, claiming to be overwhelmed by a compulsion. Societal prohibitions against such unrestrained behavior could then be cast aside. And ultimately, the cause of choreomania seems to be a mystery, but it will never cease to be a fascinating part of European history. And that's that.
Yeah, that's, I don't know what that is, but it is like I notice in LA, there are so many people, and there, we always have this theory, or this would go with physics, that we're all connected. There isn't really any space, because what the space between us is air, which is still molecules, so we're all connected. Mm-hmm. When I'm in LA, I feel like if I'm in a bad mood, I seem to notice everybody's in a bad mood, like it sweeps the whole city. And sometimes I get up in a good mood. Not that I'm starting the mood.
You could be.
I could be in charge of everyone's mood.
We may be writing
in
an
LA.
article about you soon.
Yeah, but it seems like it sweeps, like the whole city has the same feeling at once. Or you'll see, it's like when you see a ton of traffic accidents and then you don't see any more for a week. It seems like it's just in the air. But wouldn't that be weird if like the aliens were playing with those people? Like they were just like programmed their brains to dance.
Yeah, that could be. It's so strange. All right. And you know what? Did you talk about upcoming, you're going to be doing your, episode on if you could go off the grid? Did you say that in our second take?
I think I did in the beginning. Yeah, because we taped this part 4 times. Yeah, I think in the beginning I told them to send me my stories about...
Well, guess what?
Did you
Here
find
comes
one?
Your first story.
How did it come up?
No. Are you shopping for boots or coats? Because I am. And only when I was reading aloud, there was coats again. Hello. They just... And it's only when my voice was talking.
So when you were reading that...
When I was reading, I'm looking, those boots look good. Sorry. I mean...
So right off there, that's one that everybody knows. But wait, we didn't even search that. You didn't even search on there, did you?
No, I searched on my own computer, which is not attached to yours, on my own phone. And I've been looking daily and using... well, you're not sponsoring ThreadUp, but that's who I've been looking at.
Sure.
All of a sudden, when I was talking, puffy coats, exactly my search.
What you were looking
and
for.
ankle boots.
But
only when my voice was going... Okay, so weird. Okay, there's a shirt I don't want, people.
Then it must be for me.
How strange is that?
Yes, that is all right.
Because I was going to show it to you, and then as soon as you talked and I didn't, everything... I know.
So folks, if you have a story of where you found Big Brother's watching you and you didn't know, please send it to me at paranormalkaren@gmail.com, and send it soon.
Yay, guys.
Oh, this might be taped before they can send it to me. I'll read them on a later episode. Okay. Hey, everybody. About 2 months ago, I was at a crossroads and I couldn't make a decision, but I made the right decision to get a reading from Melissa Sanova. You all remember her from episode 29. I got tons of emails about how much you enjoyed her as a guest and her straightforward style, which I can't agree with more. She gave me the best reading, and even now, I'm still following the advice she gave me 2 months later because it was that good. She was spot on and to the point, and I don't know. She's just the best. She has been a professional tarot reader for over 30 years. She is the tarot reader that other tarot readers go to for a tarot reading. Try and say that 5 times fast. She also teaches tarot. She's been teaching for about 15 years. And when you go to her website, melissasanova.com, you have to watch her intro video because it's hysterical. She is not only a great teacher, but she is super fun. And she has a book called Kitchen Table Tarot that was the winner of the Independent Publisher Award for first book. It's also the first book I grab whenever I have a question. The other day, I was all thinking about the Hierophant, and I was like, nah, I'm kind of stuck on this card. And I grabbed her book. Sure enough, she cleared it up right away. A nice, easy read for beginning tarot students and for advanced. She also has a new book coming out in March called Tarot Elements I cannot wait to get. So go to melissasanova.com, book yourself a reading, get a gift certificate for someone you think needs a reading, or what the heck, buy me a reading. I cannot wait to talk to her again. It's Melissa Sanova. That's Melissa, Melissa, 1 L, 2 S's, Sanova, Cynova, melissasanova.com. That name sounds like a superhero, doesn't it? Melissa Sanova, tarot superhero. Check her out. Okay, so we're into the second half. We taped it in 2 halves for a couple of reasons. One being I have those awesome new sponsors that you heard. You loved Melissa on the podcast.
I did. She was pretty funny.
Yeah, and she's really direct, and she gave me the best reading. But now I think I'm repeating the ad I made. So we will.
So stop it.
Stop. Okay. And
number 2, being our parents, who will walk in at any point.
Right. Some of you know sometimes our parents walk in and they both have a little, just a touch of dementia. So we have to turn it off. and start. But
A generous touch.
A generous touch. And but we have a really good. I want to get to this story first. This shows the potpourri. The potpourri, because we're getting into the 2 ghost stories I have now. And this one is from Natasha in Denmark. Very exciting.
Hello, Natasha. Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Read her story.
Hello, Karen. My name is Natasha, and I'm a young woman from Denmark. It sounds like it's going to be
well
a limerick.
already. We were in the right one.
It was a limerick.
Oh, it sounds like a limerick.
But I don't want to make it into one. I've always had a really high interest in clairvoyancy and the paranormal since I was a little kid. I recently found your podcast on Spotify. I listen to you every day while I'm working on creative projects, and I think I've got a pretty good story for you that I would love to share because your sister is absolutely the funniest person.
Are you paraphrasing?
I just made that up. I'd love to hear it on your podcast next time you read ghost stories, but that's up to you, of course. It's quite long, though. It's a wild ride, so hold on.
We got time.
We got time for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And if you want, we can each read a paragraph.
That can be.
All right, I'll read the first paragraph.
Go to it, as I mentioned.
I mentioned before, I've always had a big interest in the paranormal. When I was about 12 years old, I became friends with someone who told me she could hear spirits talk to her, and I jumped to believe her immediately. Her stories intrigued me, and by the time I was about 16, I think, I was really hungering for a real paranormal experience. I had been watching Ghost Hunters, and they showed how they would try and capture evidence of spirits by taking photos, videotaping, and recording sound. So when I was in my room at my dad's place, I took my camera and opened up and invited spirits to come in and talk to me. I don't remember much other than chickening out and really quickly and left my room without proper goodbyes or any indication of ending the sessions of invitation. Not long after this, my wish for the paranormal experience was definitely heard, and these events are spread over some years. So, and yes, and I'm sure Natasha has already heard that you always are very careful with your invitation, as I say.
Thank you. I know. I get very nervous about that, Natasha. Also, sidebar, I want to find out if you knit, because people that I know from Denmark that knit so fast. Okay, that's all about that.
That's it. What is now you've given Denmark a stereotype.
Sorry, Denmark.
Okay.
Any knitters are fast knitters there. Anytime I was alone in my dad's apartment, I would be hearing noises all over the place. At first, I shrugged it off, being the neighbors. But then my collection of music, oh dear, okay, God. But then my collection of music boxes began to play on their own from time to time. A haunted house plus music boxes equals not so great when you're a paranoid teenager. Oh my God, that was the funniest.
Or when you're a menopausal woman.
I know. That's great.
That's right out of a horror movie.
Plus music boxes equals perfect. Later on, I would hear loud noises from my storage room. And I swear I heard one box fall, and it sounded like somebody was going through all the things. But once I opened the door to the room, everything was fine and untouched. All the noises stopped as well. I stopped going into the living room. I felt nauseous and extremely uncomfortable there. And during nighttime, this feeling moved to the kitchen right next to my room. Oh,
okay, so something's moving around.
I don't like it.
All right.
Go.
Okay. This type of things went on for a few months. And I remember one specific night, my dad was out until the day after. My brother was with my mother, divorced parents, and I was just playing some games on my computer with my door to the kitchen open. I was fine through the entire night, but all of a sudden I was struck with extreme paranoia, goosebumps, and the feeling that somebody was standing in the kitchen. I had an image in my head of a large, tall, black figure standing there, though I could barely see anything out there at all. I thought, I'm just paranoid because I'm home alone, and went along with my computer game. Half an hour passes, and I burst into crying. I felt so terrible, and I spent a few minutes to gain the courage to go and close my door. Once I had sat back down by my computer, I heard loud, clear footsteps walk towards my door, and I told it to go away. Then I heard the steps walk away, and I slowly began to feel better. Oof. Yeah.
After that experience, my electronics started to be played with too. I had a Mickey Mouse lamp that I've wanted from my brother for years, and it's never been acting out or anything. It's one of those lamps with a figure on it. Oh, that it says a voice line every time you turn it on and off. Okay, so it's a lamp that.
So it's Mickey.
Oh,
There's a shadow person in your kitchen.
Well, as soon as it was placed on my nightstand, it began talking on its own.
Oh.
That could be you, Karen. Just the voice lines of the Mickey figure, but it was creepy nonetheless. Okay, so he's still giving you the Walt Disney, but
Right.
Walt Disney's a little creepy.
Well, there's probably copyright infringement if the demon copyright.
Did you mean that?
No,
but it was good. Take credit. Okay. In the end, I decided to have it unplugged from now on. After that, I had a talking robot doll on my nightstand, and that too begins to talk in the middle of the night. Oh, it's like Alexa's laugh in the middle of the night, I think. That just sounds horrible. I threw in the Alexa. Sorry, I just remember when that came out. Could you imagine?
No.
All right. This time I started asking questions, though. Simple ones like, is somebody there? If so, make the doll talk again. Are you kidding me? Oh. And the doll would respond to yes and no questions.
Wow.
I got freaked out and asked it to leave. Good girl, good girl. And the doll's exterminate voice line came on. So naturally, I threw the doll out. So this might have been a Doctor Who doll. Not the doctor.
Wow.
But
Do they say exterminate in Doctor
they
Who?
do.
Oh.
I can't think of their name, the little round guys. Going on, your turn.
Okay. I finally learned my lesson and stopped putting talking things on my nightstand.
Good idea.
Or in my room at all. My music box collection had been moved out as well, and I avoided the living room and kitchen as much as possible. When I was 18, she must have been very thin. When I was about 18, I would be the first one home after school, and I had to pass through the living room to get to my room. In the living room was this giant surround sound system, a flat screen TV, and the box for the channels. Everything had their own remote, and could not be turned on at the same time unless you would press all three remotes at once. Well, every time I passed the living room, the whole thing would come on. It would just be white noise on the screen and white noise sound on the highest volume possible. It became routine to pass and then go turn off and go to my room and close the door. I wonder if
I think I'm going to ask you the thing you're going to say.
if it was happening to everybody or just her.
Yeah, don't you feel like she's like the catalyst that she walks around and all these things are reacting to her?
Yeah.
She's
Yep. And, there could be a little, because she was a teen, she could have a little poltergeist, because she's probably very clairvoyant herself. Natasha, you probably are, and that can always happen. Usually happens around a young teen girl. Okay, go ahead. Now here's the killer. You get the good paragraph.
Oh. This entity was messing with me so much, started to use my phone. Oh, that was Geez, I'm sorry, my reading is that I am messing this up. Let me try that one more time. This entity that was messing with me so much started to use my phone to contact me. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it was the same thing the entire time, as it was always the exact same feeling with these experiences. Any other of the attempts to contact me had failed, but it had noticed that I would always pick up my phone if my mom called, no matter what the time. I never picked up on any other number. She works in a bakery, and there would sometimes be emergencies, and she'd call to wake me and ask if I could come and help out. So it wouldn't be too abnormal to receive a call from her at about 4 a.m. So for a couple of weeks, while I was about 19, my cell phone would ring during 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., and the caller would say, "Mom." I picked up, and there was just no noise at all. Slight wind, kind of like a breath maybe, but there was nothing. I knew that the phone my mom had at the time was broken, so I hung up and didn't think much about it, but it kept calling every 10 to 15 minutes until 4 a.m. I talked to my mom and looked at her. She looked at her phone and it showed no calls. The next month, my mom bought a new cell phone because I kept complaining that her phone would call me in the middle of the night, and it was pretty broken anyhow. But some months after, it would happen again. My phone would call me, and it said Mom, and I would pick up, and nothing was there, and I hung up. No matter how much I hung up, it would keep calling between 3 and 4 a.m. Don't they call 3 something the witching hour in the middle?
They say 3:30 in the morning is the witching hour because it's because Jesus was crucified at 3 during the day, so they say it's the opposite. And a lot of people think, but you know what is funny? I'm not sure how much well, not for this story, but in general, people always think there's a lot of ghost activity, but at night, but there usually is during the day, but people don't notice because there's loud noises during the day. You have your TV on, but everything is kind of haunted 24/7. But this thing was, I almost wonder if we put so much attention on that time that is when it happens. You know what I mean? Like if we all have this rumor that between 3 and 4 it's bad, because if I wake up and I see it's 3:33 on the clock, I go, oh, what's going on? But literally, I wake up every hour. So once in a while, it's going to be 3:33 if you have to go to the bathroom as much as I do at night.
Oh, just like that 11:11. But I'll have to.
Yeah, but 11:11 is supposed to be good.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. All right. That's super frightening. And
is it my paragraph? Or it's a little one. You finish the little one, and then I'll go to, okay.
Oh, you can take it. It's when I was about 20.
Okay.
Are we there? Yes.
When I was about 20, I moved out, and I was so relieved to be out of my dad's apartment. I was living with a friend and spending time out nearly every night, so no activity would be experienced or noticed if there really was anything to notice. Now, in March 2015, I was in a very stressed position. I was reaching the deadline to create a portfolio to get me into a school of animation I'd been dreaming of, and at this time, I was living alone. About a week before the deadline, my phone would start calling me between 3 and 4 a.m. again, caller saying, Mom. I picked up, nothing there. Asked my mom about it day after day, and she said no calls were being made. On the second or third night of this, I remember back to when it last happened and decided to confront it. It called me at about 3 a.m. I picked up and I kept on the line going, I said hello, and then went quiet. I had so many questions in my mind. What do you want? Who are you? But I kept quiet. If the phone was really calling me on its own, it wouldn't be able to hang up, I thought. Well, about 30 seconds later, it hung up on me. A day or two later, I was woken up by knocking on my door. I was living in an apartment building specifically for students of the university and animation school, so I thought of it as a prank. But the knocking got more violent and turned into sounding like claws trying to open my door. Oh my goodness. I went back to sleep thinking I was dreaming. Every night for 4 or 5 nights after that, I had the exact same nightmare. I dreamt that someone was knocking on my door and I had to open the door, but I always felt terrible about something opening the door. Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. 2 of the nights I went back to my bed in my dream and I'd wake up to the claw sounds. The 3rd and 4th night I opened the door on several occasions as dreams tend to jump, and it'd always be a person I had bad blood with or someone showing me all my bad sides that I dislike about myself. On the last day of those nightmares, which was also the night before my deadline of handing in my portfolio, the dream felt much more malicious than it had before. The door was knocking and clawing like usual, and I got up and stood in front of it and thought of what to do. I opened the door just to peek at what was actually wanting to get inside. And the hall was empty. I felt a draft of wind and a force tried to get my door open. I struggled to close it, but I managed and locked it and went back to my bed to sleep. This was all still in my dream. After that, the nightmares and any activity around me completely stopped. The thing that strikes me the most about those nightmares is that your home and surroundings usually change and look different than in the real world, but my room and the hall looked exactly the way they did in real life. Nothing in the environment ever changed. I still have no idea to this day what I had invited to me when I was 16, but I'm happy that it is no longer around and that I locked my door at night. I do feel like I've become more and more sensitive since these experiences, and I am fascinated to see what I could learn about this by the time, what I could learn by this with time and development. Sorry. No more foolish invitations, though. Be careful of what you wish for. That is a good story.
That was super scary.
And it was well written. And
super well written.
Yeah.
And I have a comparison, if you have nothing to say yet. I mean,
go
her
ahead.
dreams were scary. Okay, so those dreams are coming at stress time. And do you remember the guy that had that bad test that we read about, and he had like a bite mark or something?
Oh, that's right.
And he said the F word to the spirits.
Oh, that's
and
right.
And it left him alone. But it's the same. It seems like these people that have that sensitivity, this is just what I've learned
when
from
they're under
you.
stress, they're not at,
They can't keep it at bay, right?
Right. Because also, not only that, they, they're home. The demons have entered. But also, when your aura is compromised, these things have more energy, and they can really, affect you more. Hey everybody, you looking for a good book? I can't help you there. But if you're looking for 2 great books, go to Amazon.com and look up author Marty McGibbon. You all know how much I complain about hating to read. Well, I read both her books cover to cover and bought copies for everybody I know. Her first book, Never Give In to Fear, Laughing All the Way Up from Rock Bottom, is a 2013 National Indie Excellence Award winner. Well, she's won like 12 to 15 writing awards between both these books. This critically acclaimed, funny and dramatic memoir describes an emerging stand-up comic's drug-fueled descent into the underworld, escape from human traffickers, homelessness, and ultimate redemption. The part where she escapes from human traffickers is jaw-dropping and a story you have never heard before. This book will become a movie someday, so get it now in its original form. Her second book, Fierce, Funny, and Female, also won a bunch of awards, and it's described as one of the first women to work as a laborer in the Texas oil field. Marty McGibbon set off explosives, staked oil wells before realizing her childhood dream of becoming a successful stand-up comic. Marty introduces readers to a wide range of characters, from a sleazy authority figure to crazed Corn Belt cult leaders to Texas oil billionaires and wildcatters to wild-eyed redneck co-workers who rob banks on their lunch hour in the company truck. The book includes scenes with iconic comedians, Hollywood entertainment industry moguls, and a legendary bluesman, and offers insights into resilience, courage, and self-empowerment. These are 2 books you will love. Go to Amazon.com and look up author Marty McGibbon, MartiMac, capital Gibbon. I promise you will not be disappointed. So, and Natasha, keep in touch with me if that happens again. I would like to hear more.
And definitely keep in touch with me if you're a knitter.
Yes, and you know what, too? It's very interesting. And I told her that I was going to read this when I was doing one on cyber terrorism, but I didn't get it together yet, and this was too good to miss. And you were here. It was nice to see you. And everyone, don't forget to send us your stories, because I'm going to be back in December with 2. But,
and my dad's really happy about that.
Yes. But there's I remember hearing a story, and I thought I found it, and I wanted to read it on this, about a family where somebody just decided to terrorize them they would have, like, if you and I were in the kitchen, my phone would call your phone and say, you're putting too much oil on the pasta. Or, in other words, it was somebody making it very clear that they could see everything that was going on in the house. And they would constantly, through phones, at one point, the girl got in trouble at school because no one was sleeping because the phones were going off at night. Both phones were off at the principal's office. They were trying to explain to the principal what happened. And while their phones are on the desk, both phones turn themselves on and start calling each other.
Good.
I know.
At least they didn't look crazy like the people in the movies that go. this happened, and then it doesn't really happen in front of anybody.
Right.
Well,
in this
better.
one, and we won't say the name, but this is a new friend from Utah, and she says, "Hi, Karen and Sue." So we just won't say her name, but I would imagine since it's to you too, we can read this on the air. We'll skip the first paragraph.
All right.
Okay, so here's another one. This one, I'll let you start with setting the scene.
Yes, I must say, thank you for the setup here.
Yes, and thank you again, Natasha.
What is it? She's a Betty? Is that her name? No. What did we call
We call everybody Betty's and Joe's. Betty's and Joe's. That's what we call
Steve's?
We could be.
We don't know. You could correct us and let us know because it's been too far back.
And you know what?
Yes,
I just want to say,
Tell
Natasha sent her story, and so did our new friend Betty. And you know what both of them will get? A free download of This Is Why, my new comedy stand-up CD.
You will like it.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Setting the scene. Before we were married, my husband purchased one side of a duplex in, do I want to say where? Just Utah. I moved in a few months later, just as a young couple was moving into the other side of the duplex. Our side had recently been remodeled, but the couple told us their side of the duplex was trashed. They found a few creepy things. Their attic had been turned into a bedroom with multiple sleeping bags still on the floor. Guys, I got that far and I'm like, yeah, that's not that creepy, but guess what? It gets creepy. There,
Give it one more sentence.
Here it comes. There was writing on the walls of the attic about the devil, as well as a list of men's names. They found a baptismal font in the garage and what they called a people cage under the deck in the yard, which she described as a chain link fenced-in area about the size of a bathroom with what appeared to be makeshift beds.
Okay.
You want to take
and you
the
know what
next
else is
one, or you
weird?
want me
Did
to?
you just hear? It's the wind is blowing so hard where we are here in New York State, and just as you said that, the wind went whoa.
You know, I have to get in a car in the dark in a little bit. So,
You'll have someone in there with you.
You can let it go. No. All right, you want to take the paragraph that says the news.
Okay, I just want to make a thing though.
Okay.
Usually in really, really haunted houses like this, that it sounds like that a lot has happened. It's almost like they started out finding, usually something demonic is anchored in the house somewhere, and it sounds like they found it.
Yes, it was like standing out.
And those were the names of all my ex-boyfriends on the wall. Okay, the news. About a month later, I came home to a reporter and a cameraman from our local news station in the driveway. They slowly moved aside so I could drive into my garage. It was very weird. I was too anxious to talk to the news crew, but my husband asked a neighbor if something had happened on our street. The neighbor told us that a cult used to live in both sides of the duplex.
Ugh.
I know.
I got the cult. Okay, here comes the cult. I immediately Googled my address and came across some info about the cult, also called the Church of the Firstborn and General Assembly of Heaven. The cult leaders, I would say Terrell, I'm not sure, but everyone, if you need to look it up, it's Terrill. Dakota,
Dalton. Terrell Dalton.
Oh, that's okay. Dalton, I got...
Dakota is our friend. Hi, Dakota.
Is Dakota here?
No, but Dakota, she on the podcast. He always listens to the podcast.
Oh, so we're just saying
Dakota.
hello?
You said Dakota, so we're going to say hello.
Yes. Yes, but I didn't say it's...
But you said Dakota by mistake, so I
Oh,
thought
I'm
we'll
sorry.
take a minute. We'll start this chapter again. We'll start this one again. But hi, Dakota.
Hi, Dakota.
Okay.
Okay.
So go back to the cult leaders.
All right. The cult leaders, Terrell Dalton, a.k.a. the Holy Ghost, and geez Louise.
Godey? Yeah,
Godey. I guess it's got to be Godey. Harmon, a.k.a. God in the Flesh. So we have the Holy Ghost and God in the Flesh.
First of all, two of the plainest last names you could ever have. Okay, so the cult leader is Terrell Dalton, a.k.a. Holy Ghost, and Godey Harmon, a.k.a. God in the Flesh. All right.
Rented our side of the duplex and owned the other side. They were accused by former cult members of sexual indecency and threats to assassinate President Obama and President Bush. The cult's regularly practiced mass suicide with Kool-Aid in case of a standoff with law enforcement. The Secret Service raided the duplexes in 2009. Somehow the cult was able to flee to Idaho and then Montana. The FBI finally caught up with them in Montana. Dalton and Harmon were extradited to Utah to face charges of rape in 2010, hence the news crews in front of our house.
God. Yeah. Okay, The Haunting. I would sometimes hear a music box. That's 2 music boxes.
Oh, and I hope you don't have one in your room tonight with Mom and...
Okay.
But if you hear one, you're in big trouble.
That's right, double music box. I would sometimes hear a music box playing when in my bedroom. I assumed I was hearing noises from the... Oh, wait, I just clicked off my... Hang on.
I assumed I was hearing noises from next door because our bedrooms had a common wall. One day, my neighbor asked me if I had a music box because she could hear one playing when in her bedroom.
Jeez. I also heard mysterious children laughing and a baby crying in my room.
Uh-oh, the most frightening thing for you.
I know. No children and babies, live or dead. When my mom watched the house for us while we were out of town, she said she could hear children playing, but didn't know where it was coming from because she couldn't see any kids outside.
Do you think she used that as an opportunity to ask when she was going to be a grandmother?
Oh.
When my daughter was born, I woke up to feed her during the night. Every night at 3 a.m. Oh, no. I just was worried about that on my way into this room. And Karen got to me down, and now I'm upset again. A dark figure would walk past my bedroom door every night like clockwork. A friend once told me he had a very bad feeling when standing in front of my bedroom door, right where I saw the shadow man walk each night. I'm just going to do this when you can take over, okay? I was laying in bed, starting to doze off, when suddenly I heard a man yelling my name in my ear. I sat up quickly thinking there must be a problem, but no one else was in the room. This happened a few times. My older daughter reported having the same thing happen to her.
The house had a bad feeling overall. I wondered if it was just residual energy left from the cult or other former occupants. We finally moved out in 2014. The neighbors next door moved out a few months before us. Oh, that's a good story.
And then she said, thanks for your fun podcast. So excited I found you.
Yay!
Hope to see you live again soon. Yeah, okay, this is this is the second person that said that, right? Yes, because the other one listens to it all the time. Yay for my sister. Because when I started reading these... we were very unprofessional, and I'm much better now.
Well, it's funny because you said, Karen, I think your podcast got better that you should read them without me. And then I was like, do you see the reviews? Do you see the people like, oh, my favorite is sister too?
Well, that I can't. And she also had the shadow. The 3 o'clock.
She had the shadow
box.
person. But you know what, too? I really do think that whatever was going on in the attic, they conjured something. And that word is just creepy.
I don't like that word.
Conjured is a bad word. But that is, you know what? I remember seeing anybody, if you want to see a terrifying movie, and it's very realistic, and it's called The Haunting. There's 100 movies called, it's either A Haunting or The Haunting. There's a million movies, but Sally Kirkland is in it, and it's about a family in the 70s that lived in a duplex that something was going back and forth, and it almost sounds like this house. But they didn't have but it was really, I think that was the scariest movie I've ever seen.
I don't like it.
All right. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. Our little potpourri tonight. We had a little dancing, we had a little laughing, and we had a couple of stories for you. And so now I got to remember all my housework. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. He's my producer guy. Also, if you can leave me 5 stars, that would be awesome. I would appreciate that.
They're really growing. A lot of listeners from what I hear.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody that came over from Tinfoil Hat. That was a blast. And, let me see. Is there anything else I'm supposed to remember? Oh, send us more ghost stories. And they don't even have to be ghost stories. They can be, just near-death experiences or whatever. We have more coming up with that. And, this is, I think, coming out right after Thanksgiving. Thank thanks, everybody. I can't remember what else. Oh, yes, you can probably get my CD, and you'll get a free copy, much like these two will, when you send me your story, your ghost story, or something like that. Otherwise, you can buy it online. Everybody, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. Oh,
Bye-bye.
next week we have Diette. Next week I'm going to have Diette. She is another channeler, and she is fabulous.
You say everybody's fabulous, though.
But I really...
Because they are all fabulous.
I have really good guests, don't I?
I do.
I only had
so.
one podcast where I didn't feel like that, and I didn't air that one. We'll save it for a holiday.
Was it me?
No. All right, everybody, have a great day.
Okay, bye, you guys.